Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because the stories you're about to hear aren't just scary. These are the kinds of experiences people don't talk about. If you enjoy true horror stories, unsettling encounters, and disturbing events that happen to real people, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. Spring break was supposed to be the easiest week of my life. That's what we kept telling ourselves as we packed the car, 6 of us, halfway through college, convinced that nothing bad ever really happens to people like us. We weren't reckless. We weren't stupid. We weren't looking for trouble. We just wanted a break. We chose a beach town in another state, the kind that explodes with life every March and then goes completely dead the rest of the year. Cheap rentals, non-stop parties, and streets so crowded at night you could disappear into them without trying. That detail matters now. Because someone did disappear. And I don't think it was an accident. We arrived just after sunset. The sky was still streaked pink and orange, and the ocean looked calm enough to convince you nothing dark could exist anywhere near it. Music echoed from every direction. Neon lights buzzed. People shouted and laughed and spilled into the streets like the town itself couldn't contain them. Our rental was a small house about 10 minutes from the main strip. Nothing special. Peeling paint, uneven floors, the faint smell of mildew masked with cheap air freshener. But it was cheap, and it had enough beds, and that was all we cared about. That first night went exactly how you'd expect. Drinks. Music. Crowds. Strangers becoming friends for a few hours. We lost track of time, then lost track of each other, then somehow found our way back to the house around 3 a.m., sunburned, drunk, and exhausted. I remember thinking how quiet it was once the door shut behind us. Like the world outside had been switched off. That's when I noticed the footprints. They were wet. Leading up the front steps. None of us had been home yet. Probably from earlier, someone said. We laughed it off. That was our biggest mistake. The second night was louder. Messier. We met a group of locals at a bar near the boardwalk, older than us, mid to late 20s, friendly in a way that felt practiced. One of them stood out immediately. His name was Aaron. At least, that's what he told us. He wasn't loud or flashy like the others. He didn't drink much. He mostly watched. Leaned against walls. Smiled when people spoke to him, but rarely added much of his own. I caught him staring at us more than once. Not in a creepy way, I told myself. Just curious. When we left the bar, he followed. Not obviously. Not directly. But every time I turned around, he was there, across the street, near a food stand, leaning against a railing. Always at a distance that made it easy to doubt yourself. Do you know that guy? My friend Mark asked quietly. I shook my head. When we reached the house, Aaron stopped at the end of the driveway. Hey, he called out. You guys staying here? Someone answered yes. Another mistake. He smiled wider this time. Cool place, he said. Careful though. Break-ins are common around here during spring break. That should have scared us. Instead, we thanked him. That night, I woke up around 4:30 a.m. with the uneasy feeling that someone was standing over me. The room was dark. The sound of the ocean drifted faintly through a cracked window. I held my breath, listening. Nothing. I convinced myself it was just a dream. In the morning, one of the girls couldn't find her phone. It turned up later on the kitchen counter. None of us remembered putting it there. The third day felt off from the start. The crowd seemed thinner. The music quieter. Like the town was slowly exhaling after holding its breath too long. We spent the afternoon at the beach, trying to shake the unease with alcohol and sun and noise. That's when I saw Aaron again. He was standing near the dunes, watching us. Alone. No towel. No drinks. No phone. Just watching. I told myself it was coincidence. That night, 2 of us stayed back at the house while the rest went out. I was one of them. Around midnight, the power flickered. Once. Then again. Then it stayed off. We lit candles and joked about horror movies, but the silence outside felt thick. Heavy. That's when we heard footsteps on the porch. Slow. Deliberate. Then a knock. 3 taps. I froze. "Who is it?" I asked. No response. The handle jiggled. Locked. The footsteps moved away. In the morning, the front door was unlocked. No sign of forced entry. On the 4th night, Mark didn't come home. At first, we weren't worried. Phones die. Plans change. Spring break logic. We went to sleep expecting to hear him stumble in at dawn. He never did. By noon the next day, his phone went straight to voicemail. We retraced our steps. Bars. Streets. Beach. Nothing. That's when the police got involved. They asked the usual questions. Took statements. Nodded sympathetically. Promised to look into it. That evening, as we sat in the living room in stunned silence, someone knocked on the door. 3 taps. I already knew who it would be. Aaron stood there, dry despite the damp air, smiling softly. "I heard one of you went missing," he said. "That's terrible." I asked how he knew. He tilted his head. "Small town," he replied. Behind him, down the street, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Footprints. Leading away from the house. Only one set. Dragging slightly. We slammed the door and locked it. That night, we heard noises inside the walls. Scraping. Breathing. Soft laughter that didn't belong to anyone we knew. When the police finally searched the empty lot behind the house the next morning, they found Mark's wallet. And deep in the sand near the dunes, half buried and soaked with seawater, they found his phone. The last photo on it was taken at 3:12 a.m. It showed a dark room. A single window. And Aaron's face reflected in the glass. Smiling. They never found Mark. But every year, when spring break comes around, someone else goes missing in that town. And locals say if you walk the beach late enough, you might see a man standing near the dunes. Watching. Waiting. Smiling. Spring break was almost over when this happened, which made it worse. Most horror stories happen at the peak of the chaos, crowds, noise, drunken mistakes. This happened when everything was slowing down. When the town felt tired. When the streets started emptying and the parties thinned out, leaving behind only locals and people who stayed too long. We were staying in a cheap motel just outside the main beach strip. 4 of us. The kind of place with buzzing lights, stained carpets, and doors that never quite felt locked. We told ourselves it didn't matter because we were barely sleeping there anyway. The rain started on the 4th night. Not a storm. Just steady, miserable rain that soaked the sidewalks and washed the sand into the streets. Most people stayed inside. Bars closed early. The town felt hollow. That night, we decided to walk instead of driving. Bad idea in hindsight, but everything felt harmless at the time. The rain blurred the streetlights and turned the road into shining black glass. Music drifted faintly from somewhere far away, echoing strangely between buildings. That's when we met him. He was sitting alone at a bus stop, even though no buses ran that late. Hood up, elbows on his knees, staring at the ground. We would have walked past him if he hadn't spoken. "You guys heading back toward Ocean View?" he asked. His voice was calm, friendly. Local accent. One of my friends nodded. "Mind if I walk with you?" he asked. "Not safe out here at night." That should have been the first red flag. Instead, we laughed it off and told him sure. He introduced himself as Caleb. Said he lived nearby. Said spring break always brought weird people into town. He told stories about tourists doing dumb things, going missing for a night or two, then showing up hungover and confused. At the time, it felt like harmless conversation. Now I know he was testing us. As we walked, I noticed something strange. He never looked behind us. Not once. Even when footsteps echoed. Even when cars passed too close. His eyes stayed forward, like he already knew nothing was there. When we reached our motel, he stopped at the edge of the parking lot. "This is me," he said. Rain streamed off his hood, but when he stepped back, I noticed the concrete beneath him wasn't wet. Dry. Perfectly dry. "See you around," he added. The next morning, one of my friends couldn't find his room key. We assumed he lost it. By that afternoon, we realized something else was wrong. The motel door was unlocked. None of us remembered unlocking it. That night, the rain came back harder. Thunder rattled the windows. The motel sign flickered outside, its red glow bleeding through the curtains. Around 2 a.m., someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. We froze. "Front desk," a voice called. "Just need to check something in your room." It sounded wrong. Too flat. Too close to the door. We didn't answer. The handle rattled. Then stopped. In the morning, muddy footprints led from our door down the hallway. Only one set. Pointing inward. That day, we decided to leave early. Packed up. No more partying. Just get home. The drive back was tense but uneventful. Rain followed us for miles, then finally faded as we crossed state lines. We joked nervously, trying to shake the feeling that the trip had gone sour. When we stopped for gas 3 hours from home, my friend went pale. "That guy," he whispered. I turned. Across the parking lot, standing under the flickering lights, was Caleb. Same hoodie. Same posture. He smiled and lifted a hand in a small wave. We didn't stop for gas. We didn't stop again until we reached our city. That night, after unpacking, I found sand in my shoes. Wet sand. I hadn't been to the beach since we left. Over the next few days, strange things started happening. Doors unlocked themselves. Lights flickered. We'd hear footsteps outside our apartments at night, pacing slowly back and forth. Then the messages started. Unknown numbers. No replies allowed. You left something behind. Spring break isn't over. I walked with you. Remember? One of my friends disappeared a week later. Police said he probably left town. But the night before he vanished, he sent me a photo. It showed his apartment hallway. At the end of it stood a familiar figure in a hoodie. Smiling. I moved shortly after. New locks. New routines. But sometimes, late at night, when rain taps against my window, I hear footsteps outside. And a voice I recognize whispering through the door. Just checking something in your room. Spring break was supposed to be our last chance to feel young. That's how my cousin Jake put it when he suggested the trip. One last reckless week before internships, jobs, responsibilities. No parents. No rules. Just freedom. There were 5 of us in total. Me, Jake, his girlfriend Lena, my friend Trevor, and a girl Trevor had just started seeing named Emily. We rented a beachside condo in a smaller spring break town, not Miami, not Cancun. Somewhere quieter, cheaper, and easier to disappear in if you wanted to. That sentence didn't mean anything to me back then. We arrived late at night. The streets were crowded but not chaotic. Music drifted from balconies. Police cars crawled slowly along the main strip, lights off, watching instead of intervening. Our condo sat at the far end of the beach, away from most of the action. That was intentional. Jake said it'd be easier to sleep. The building was old. Concrete. Narrow hallways. The elevator smelled like saltwater and rust. Our unit was on the 3rd floor, facing the ocean. When we opened the balcony door, the sound of the waves swallowed everything else. The first 2 nights were normal. Drinking. Clubs. Beach during the day. Sunburns and hangovers. Nothing that felt dangerous. Nothing that felt off. The 3rd night was different. A storm rolled in just after sunset. Not violent, but persistent. Rain streaked down the streets, washing away footprints, smearing reflections into long, distorted shapes. Most people stayed inside, but Jake convinced us to go out anyway. Less crowds, he said. More fun. The club we went to was half empty. Music too loud for the number of people there. Neon lights flickering. Everything felt stretched thin, like the town was tired. That's when Emily disappeared. 1 minute she was next to Trevor at the bar. The next, she was gone. At first, we laughed it off. Bathroom. Dance floor. Outside to take a call. It happens. But 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Trevor went pale. He tried calling her. Straight to voicemail. We searched the club. Bathrooms. Back patio. Alley behind the building. Nothing. The bouncer said he didn't remember her leaving. The bartender said she never paid her tab. Police were called. They took a report. Asked what she was wearing. Asked how much she had to drink. Asked if she might have left with someone willingly. That word, willingly, made my stomach twist. That night, none of us slept. Rain tapped against the balcony doors like fingers. Around 4 a.m., I heard something outside. Footsteps. Bare feet on concrete. Slow. I peeked through the curtains. On the beach below, someone was standing near the waterline. A woman. Facing the ocean. Her hair hung wet down her back. For a moment, I thought it was Emily. Then she turned her head. And I realized she was too far away for me to see her face. She lifted her arm. And waved. I stumbled back from the window, heart racing. When I looked again, she was gone. The next day, the police expanded the search. Volunteers combed the beach. Helicopters flew overhead. News vans arrived. No body. No witnesses. No leads. By the 4th night, the town felt wrong. Quieter than it should have been. Locals watched us differently. Conversation stopped when we walked by. The rain returned, heavier this time, soaking everything. That night, Jake got a message. Unknown number. No text. Just a photo. It showed the inside of our condo. Specifically, the hallway leading to the bedrooms. The photo was taken from the ceiling corner. Like from a security camera. We didn't have cameras. Jake laughed at first. Nervous laughter. Said it was a prank. Then another message came in. A video. 10 seconds long. It showed Emily. Sitting on a concrete floor. Crying softly. Behind her, you could hear waves. And breathing. Not hers. We called the police again. They took our phones. Told us not to leave town. That night, the power went out. The condo went black except for lightning flashing through the windows. The ocean sounded closer somehow. Louder. Like it was right beneath us. Around midnight, someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. We didn't move. Another knock. Then a voice. Emily's voice. Please, she said. Open the door. Trevor broke. He ran for the door despite us grabbing him. He unlocked it and yanked it open. The hallway was empty. But the condo door across from ours was open. We hadn't seen anyone staying there all week. From inside that unit, we heard movement. Dragging. A wet sound. Trevor stepped forward. And the door slammed shut. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They found Trevor's phone on the floor. Cracked. Wet with salt water. They never found him. The building was evacuated the next morning. Our condo was searched top to bottom. No sign of forced entry. No signs of anyone else. But in the neighboring unit, the one that had been empty, they found something carved into the wall. 5 tallies. For crossed out. 1 left unfinished. We left town under police escort. Spring break ended early for us. 2 months later, Jake drowned. They said it was an accident. Night swimming. Alcohol involved. A week after that, Lena vanished while jogging near her apartment. I was the last one left. I stopped answering unknown numbers. Stopped going out at night. Stopped going near water. But last spring break, I got a message. No text. Just a photo. A beach. At night. 5 sets of footprints leading toward the ocean. And 1 set coming back.